All right, everyone, I'd like to invite you to take your seats for our next panel, which is on social media and AI, certainly at the forefront of everyone's mind these days. We have a fantastic panel, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tony Benoot.
So Louis Brandeis in 1927 in Whitney, if there be time to expose through discussion the falsehood and fallacies, to avert the evil by the processes of education, the remedy to be applied is more speech, not enforced silence. It really feels to me like we live in a fundamentally different world.
There's a very powerful statement of this that Jamie Calvin reports in his introduction to Harry Calvin's wonderful book, Worthy Tradition. Harry Calvin, he reports him as says, speech has a price. It is, I'm continuing the quote, a liberal weakness to deny the price. It's not always right to win the argument by saying that the danger has been exaggerated. What's the price? Denigration and social exclusion. That's one price. Reputational injury. Put up your hand if you don't care about your reputation. Emotional offense, other kinds of offensiveness, disinformation, misinformation, mistrust of the information system, potential for violence, and sheer financial cost. You got to pay. Berkeley paid $650,000 to protect a parade of chuckleheads like Milo Yiannopoulos, who came to Berkeley in 2017, and they did the right thing by paying that money.
I would also say that truth is relative. It's often an evolving process that updates itself as science evolves and updates itself. So what felt truthful to Jefferson and Brandeis is not necessarily what's either objectively or subjectively true now. So I think even when we talk about the basic premise, I sort of grapple with that. And also I think from a practical standpoint, I think if we look at history, it's not necessarily borne out that more speech creates better speech.
Just as a reminder, this is round one. And in, and in round two, the hope is to get into like solutions.
The solution to speech being more speech. Well, something has certainly changed over the past few decades, which is that we no longer have this idyllic town square, right? We have like private parties and dungeons, except it's worse. It's like we've got these private parties in chat groups and algorithmic amplification of news feeds and things that we see or don't see, echo chambers, et cetera. Except we've got these like private parties and dungeons where like uninvited guests can like show up.
I want to take my point of privilege as a professor to deconstruct the assumptions, I think, of the question or to challenge them, which is that I don't think that the social media requires fundamental change to our free speech principles, but that's because I think our free speech principles have never been exactly what Brandeis and Jefferson said they were. So it has never been the case that the solution to bad speech or harmful speech has been more speech. I think one of the frustrations and I think sort of profound anxieties about democratic existence today in the United States is the perception that that doesn't necessarily work, that truth does not inevitably prevail through reasoned argument, because reason requires a lot of ground rules. And so there have to be choices about how you're going to order, how you're going to curate, how you're going to promote, who are you going to choose. And these roles of gatekeeping and curation are incredibly important, and they are necessary too.
So one of the projects that Genevieve and I are working on together is actually to catalog content moderation policies of hundreds of the most popular platforms to see basically what they say about this and to what extent, along a number of different axes, copyrighted content, misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech. I think we're just getting started there, but I mean, needless to say, probably would come as no surprise that the level of specificity, prescriptiveness, or lack thereof, formality, is all over the map.
We've been able to see behind the curtain and expose what was always happening. It's nothing new that there were gatekeepers and processes of curation and unequal distributions of power and problems of sexism and racism and distribution of wealth and access and costs, the digital age has pushed these pre-existing issues to the fore and given us an opportunity to contend with them.
I hope so. I worry that the way in which it's been framed is it's just the tech company's fault, right? It's just
deeper- it's
evil.
deeper.
We found a villain.
Yeah.
But in
And
fact, the
also
villain.
hear, I think I also hear consistently, well, maybe with a little bit of nuance, I'll let you speak for yourself, Josh, is that there's certainly
I
a
will,
difference.
thank you.
I do think each of you has actually articulated a different approach to maybe addressing what ought, if anything, change.